and Mayor Barrett. First, thank you for bestowing this particular honor upon Michelle, her family, and the men and women of the 32nd MP Company who deployed to Iraq in 2003. General Dunbar, thank you for your continued support of the Witmer family. And to John and Lori Witmer, thank you for raising such a beautiful family of God-fearing, patriotic children dedicated to making the world a better place. That said, good morning, 32nd MP Company. Or I say, good afternoon, 32nd MP Company. It's great to be able to say that again. It's been almost a decade. Stood our mission perfectly. She exuded kindness and gentleness. She had a positive attitude. She exhibited tenacity and inner strength. I was with her at a Bible study just a few days before she was killed, and know firsthand that she had great faith in God. And she illuminated God's love for her to others. She loved people. Love is an action, not an emotion. And she demonstrated her love and compassion for others working with the Iraqi Police Service, civilians in the downtown area, our translators, orphans with special needs, and her fellow soldiers. She made a difference to me. As a young company commander leading soldiers in what was brutal combat, she made a difference to the people that she served alongside, many of whom are standing right to my left. Thank you all for being here today.
To start by sharing, Lori and I we're going to tag team this. Start off with an email that will help you understand a little bit about who Michelle was. This is something she sent to us while she was in Baghdad.
It's my favorite email. So who was Michelle Witmer? We'll let Michelle's own words help answer that question. Hey Dad, it was a warm night in Baghdad. There was a slight breeze in the air, and the dark clouds above looked as though they were toying with the idea of opening up and releasing their fury on the dimly lit city below. The young woman running on the path that paralleled the Tigris River was secretly praying that they would open up and cool her perspiring head. She panted along as she took in the beauty of the scenery around, the river to her left, and across from it the city lights. To her right were the ruins of what were once some of the most magnificent palaces in the world. It would only be a few weeks before this chapter of her life would be over. A year ago, a student in college whose only concerns were making the rent and restocking the ramen noodles, Michelle could never have dreamed how in 1 year her life had turned into a top that couldn't seem to stop spinning. It had spun her all the way to Baghdad, Iraq, and turned the course of her life upside down. As she neared the home stretch, she pondered how this year had changed her perspective on life, culture, war, and things worth dying for. She began to think about her many experiences. Some would call them adventures, some nightmares, but she preferred to think of them as spices that gave the story of her life richer flavors and saucier smells. Yes, her life had definitely gone from TV dinner to world cuisine. Maybe someday I'll write a book about all this, give it my own personal spin, she thought to herself as she began her cool down. Okay, Pops, maybe I will write a book about this place someday, who knows? Let's see, I went running tonight and thought about how much I miss you guys. Well, I miss you and love you, and I will try to be better at writing more. Love, your daughter, Michelle.
Bullets rained down on the northbound convoy. Others describe it as the most intense ambush of the deployment, with enemy fire erupting from a stretch of buildings 3 blocks long. An RPG landed on the curb and an explosion crippled the lead vehicle. It swerved hard to the right. The Drell's vehicle purposely rammed the lead vehicle, forcing it ahead. The driver of the second vehicle, Michelle, trying to move both vehicles out of the kill zone. Michelle was in the gunner's seat, manning the saw, a weapon capable of firing 750 rounds per minute. She was hit in the shoulder. The bullet passed through her heart, stopping it almost instantly. 10 years have passed, and I still don't think the public fully understands what I just said, or what Michelle did. She was a gunner, traveling through Baghdad in the middle of the night to reinforce police stations. And Michelle was not the only female gunner that night. At least 4 of the other 6 vehicles in the convoy had women in the gunner seat. Officially, Michelle was in what was defined as a support role. At the time, women were barred from combat roles. But urban warfare does not present itself with orderly battle lines, and insurgents don't reserve their hostility for soldiers with infantry patches on their arms. While those in leadership were debating the role of women in the military, women of the 32nd MPs were simply getting the job done, stepping up, doing what was asked of them, taking fire and returning it, patrolling streets, hunting insurgents from building to building, and trying to maintain order in a country whose infrastructure had imploded. So when people see this sign, yes, I want them to remember our daughter. And I want them to remember the fallen. And I want them to remember the sacrifices of all our soldiers and our veterans.